You're listening to the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show with your hosts, the Fantasy Insider, Matt Brick, the Commish, Henry Brick, and the Doctor, Jeff Hathcott.
Nice. I don't hear you, buddy. Oh, there you
go. How are we doing?
Man, can I just say something? Did you guys watch that game last night with Trevor Lawrence having no idea that there's a clock? How many penalties did they get for clock management? That drives me crazy.
Yeah,
he's just not looking. Of course, they have the clock this way, not in front of them, which I think's a error on the stadium people. But this doesn't matter. You should know where it is and know what the time is. And of course, I lose DFS by only 3 points last night. Drive me crazy.
Fun times. That's for sure. At least, I mean, the Monday night game was nice. I for all the craziness, like it was nice to see, a high scoring game. So
yeah, it was nice to see the Chiefs lose. I can't get used to that. I cannot not get used to that. I should say.
All right, let's get right into the news. I honestly couldn't find a lot this week. If you guys have anything to say, just go ahead and say it. But here we go. I have that Brenton Strange was put on IR today, so that's a shame. Hope he, gets back better. Joe Flacco was traded today to the Bengals. So there's your answer there for the Bengals quarterback situation. Amarian Hampton was put on IR as well. So there's that. Spencer Schrader, the kicker of the Colts, will miss the rest of the season with a knee injury. Shame there.
Killer.
And Antonio Brown. Whoa. Antonio Gibson tore his ACL. So he is out for the remainder of the season. The Jets are 0-5 and currently have the number 1 pick in the 2026 NFL Draft. And most importantly, we have bye weeks this week. There's 2 teams on a bye. That is the Minnesota Vikings and the Houston Texans. So if you have any of those players on your team, you're going to want to bench them this week because they will not be playing football.
How about Flacco getting traded, man? I think that's great news for Chase and Higgins.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? I mean,
yeah, for sure.
I mean, I don't know that it's going to win them a ton more games, but it's got to be better fantasy play, I think, for those players.
I think in a perfect world, I mean, I have Jamar Chase in a couple of leagues, and I kind of have my expectations tempered just because, Flacco is a statue back there. He is not going to be able to move, and this offensive line is not good. So unless he's a wizard and he's a commander and he can get these linemen in a position to block for him better, like maybe that's the case. But I mean, Joe Burrow was having these same issues. Browning, Browning's Browning. He is
Browning, man. Browning is like a balloon ball wizard, man. At least I think Flacco won't throw a balloon ball.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, I think just because Flacco likes to check the ball down, and I mean he's going to be under duress a lot. I think this is great news for Chase Brown, who's he hasn't been looking too good. So
I know.
Hopefully it turns it around for him. But yeah, he's just he's been struggling a lot. So I think if anything, Chase Brown might be the biggest benefactor, just because they have no run game. But I hopefully it works out. Especially I have T Higgins in the league too. And since Burrow's been down, I've basically been just in the dumps. But it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll help. I think it'll help everyone there. Honestly, I think, obviously Flacco isn't the best, but he's better than Jake Browning, and that's what's going to matter. At the end of the day, he's not going to be throwing as many picks as Browning did. Joe Flacco can actually throw the ball. So I'm happy. I'm fine with it. Older, reliable Joe Flacco. I'm not. And the funny thing is that everyone's mentioning that he already beat the Packers, and that's who they play this week. So that'll be interesting to see.
I think it's interesting that they traded within the division too.
They
I
did.
mean, unless they know something we don't know, I guess the Browns are kind of confident that it's not going to come back to bite them. But who knows?
Well, I mean, Gabriel was a good distributor. He didn't light the world on fire, but I think he did what he was asked to do. And I think it's something that they can improve upon with him, where Flacco was kind of tapped out. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll see. Oh,
All right. Let's get into our start and sit 'em. Why don't we, right? Kamish, why don't you go first?
all right, gentlemen. I hope you have your pencils handy. I got the excellent starts of the week. I'm going to start with first J.K. Dobbins versus the Jets, who are 22nd in total defense and ranked 31st with points allowed. And I just watched J.K. Dobbins run on the Birds, so I think he does great stuff against the New York Jets. I also love. I'm going back to Jared Goff here. I know he goes up against the Chiefs. I think he will fare well because it's going to be a very competitive game, and I think that just bodes well for fantasy. Okay. The Chiefs have allowed 5 touchdowns through the air so far. But listen, Goff has the weapons to exploit it. Let's face it, all the Chiefs have is really McDuffie back there. So I think this could be actually a JMO game. I've been saying past couple weeks how he's a boom or bust. This could be a boom game for JMO. Finally, start all the Eagles you have. They're going up against the New York Football Giants. Uh, you got to start AJ Brown, Barkley, Devonta Smith, even Goddard. Hurts is an excellent start this week. They rank 26th in total defense. They've allowed, 612 yards on the ground this year, fourth worst in the NFL, and they just lost. Right, so Matt was just telling me last night it was what Hurts, Barkley, and AJ Brown had a big meeting that lasted for a couple hours. So hopefully they cleared the air with whatever minutia was going on in their world. And this is a get well game for the Birds. I think it's a fantasy football stat friendly game, and make sure they're all in your lineup. Doctor, what do you got, sir?
Yeah, I love the Eagles pick Henry. I think that's a wise decision. My Giants have not looked good, and they will continue to not look good against their division rival. But for me, listen, this guy's got the most passing yards in the league right now, and he's a top 5 quarterback. Matthew Stafford. If you're going to be a fringe top 5 guy in this league and you don't run, you've got to be just white hot when it comes to passing the ball. And right now, with Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and even getting Kyron Williams involved last week, who he had a blow up game. Despite that loss, I just think Stafford's he's a must start right now. Until he starts to cool off, I have him in 2 leagues, and he's my guy. In one league I picked him up off waivers. I had Burrow, and he's literally kept me. He's kept me more than afloat. I actually have a winning record in that league, despite losing a guy I spent an early draft pick on. In the last 2 games, he has 389, 375 passing yards, and those are 2 of his highest marks since joining the Rams in 2022. This Devontae Adams, acquiring him in the red zone, I think it's been great for Stafford. They let go of Cooper Kupp. There was questions, how was Tay going to fit into this offense? He's fitting great. I love that. He's a smash for me this week. At running back, along with Javonte Williams, the head coach, he said this week that Javante's earned that bell cow role. Despite Jaden Blue being activated, so I love Javonte this week. He's been a steady presence in the offense. Just 7.6% of his runs have gone for 0 or negative yards this season, which is the lowest rate among the top 24 running backs so far this year. His burst to hit the holes, it's improved, and he definitely looks to be a step above than what he was asked to do in Denver. I think Javante's going to have himself another great outing this week, and crazy to say, but Deebo Samuel right now, he's quietly been just an excellent draft choice for managers this season, and just an all-star pickup for the Commanders front office. I mean, I don't think people are talking about him enough right now. I know he had that garbage time touchdown this past week. It was kind of just a throw it up and pray from Jaden Daniels, but the Commanders are getting the best out of him. They're using him in the slot a lot more. It's the highest rate in the slot that he's been in his career, and he's always been a great zone beater, that man beater throughout the course of this. But they're putting him in great matchups, and against this Bears, this is going to be my game of the week. The Bears and the Commanders this week. I think it's going to be another lights out. I'll talk about it more in DFS, but I think this is going to be an incredible game to watch. I hope both of the offenses come with a really good preparation, because I think it's going to be a barn burner. How about you, Matt?
All right, let's get into my starts of the week. Up first, I have Josh Jacobs against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are the worst team against the running back in fantasy football. They've allowed 129 fantasy points to running backs, which is an average of 25.8 fantasy points per game. Also, the Packers had a bye week last week, so I expect Jacobs to have a great week. Next, I have Rams wide receivers against the Ravens. The Ravens are 31st against wide receivers, allowing 135 fantasy points, which is an average of 27 fantasy points per game. That's a lot of fantasy points, and I want to be a part of that. So you're going to want to start Puka and Adams in that game. And lastly, I got Drake May. I mean, he did not have a great week last week, but I think against that Saints defense this week, they are the 26th in the league against the quarterback, allowing 117 fantasy points, which is an average of 23.4 fantasy points per game. I think, yes, he did have a tough matchup against the divisional rival and the Bills on, what was that, Monday Night Football? Or no, that was Sunday Night Football. My bad.
Sunday night, yeah.
Yeah, but that was a heck of a game, and those guys are always going to play each other tough. I think against the Saints, Drake will have another great game, so I'm starting him as well. Yeah, those are my starts. Let's get into the sits. Who are we not playing this week? I'll start it off. I have no problem with that. This week, I'm sitting Justin Fields. Oof. He's got the Broncos this week. The Broncos are the third best defense against a quarterback. They allow an average of 14.2 fantasy points per game to the quarterback. I mean, that's the third best. You can't go. That's pretty bad. So the Broncos defense is tough. The Jets are 0-5, and as much as they do give us fantasy points, this just might not be the week for the Jets to be that great. Next up, I have sitting Derrick Henry. He goes up against the Rams this week. They are second against the running backs, allowing 50 points to running backs, which is only an average of 10 points per game, which obviously because, it's after 5 weeks. The Ravens are sadly playing for draft picks this year, so it's not going to be easy for Derrick Henry, I think, unfortunately. I'm also sitting Dallas wide receivers. They play the Carolina Panthers, where they are the third best against the wide receivers, allowing 70 points and an average of 14 points per game. So there's that. And I think this could be an upset. Call me crazy, but I think the Panthers can win this game. And I think that if their defense actually shows up like they tend to do sometimes, I think they can actually pull this one out. So those are my sits this week. Jeff, who do you got? Who do you got to sit?
Yeah, I'm going with Jaylen Warren. Listen, I know he was banged up. The Pittsburgh Steelers just got off their bye. Um, but you just had Kenneth Gainwell, who had an incredible game against the Vikings. He had 6 catches, 134 scrimmage yards with 2 touchdowns. I think he showed enough to cut into this workload for Warren. Caleb Johnson's really a non-factor, but I definitely think Kenneth Gainwell earned more playing time. But these guys, they're going up against Cleveland this week. It's a divisional game, and Cleveland's their defense right now. They've surrendered the fifth fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. Um, I, I don't think this offensive line for the Steelers is anything like crazy. So I definitely think the Browns are going to have their way in the trenches and make life very difficult for Jalen Warren. Obviously, if you have to start him if you're in a pinch, especially with the bye weeks and whatnot for these two teams on bye, the Vikings and Texans, I understand. But just temper expectations. Hopefully he gets a goal line carry and falls into the end zone. Um, and then for me, Keon Coleman, uh, right now he's found the end zone for the second time this season in Week 5, but he's just been a touchdown or bust this season. Since breaking out with that 112-yard game in Week 1, he's averaged just over 3 receptions and 28 yards per game. They're facing an Atlanta Falcons defense this week that's been just incredibly unfriendly to opposing passing games. Atlanta has only surrendered a paltry 135 passing yards per game this season. Um, Especially with how James Cook looks this past week. He did not have a great game. I think they're going to lean on him more, just because the Falcons' run defense has surrendered 4.6 yards per carry this year, and it's just going to limit Coleman's opportunities. And Matt touched on this before with Justin Fields. Garrett Wilson, I know he's been a stud for me this year. Uh, uh, I love what he's doing. Like, even if it's garbage time, like he's coming in, he's playing hard. You can definitely see, especially like how he talks about the team and how he wants to be a Jet. But going up against this Denver Broncos defense, especially it's overseas, it's a London game. Uh, I cannot stand starting players that are over in overseas games. It's always annoying. There's always jet lag and things like that you have to worry about as well. And with Patrick Surtain, he's locking down Wilson. He's going to be on him pretty much all game. So if you've got him, obviously you're going to start him, but you really got to temper expectations. I just don't see. I don't see Garrett Wilson having one of those crazy 20-plus point games this week. How we feeling, Henry? What you got?
Well, boys, you stole some of my thunder. I love the Jalen Warren pick. I love the Derrick Henry pick, but I do have a few others to add to the pile. How about Danny Dimes? How about this? Indiana Jones has been doing great. The team's doing great. He's averaging 17 fantasy points a game the last 3 weeks. He goes up against Arizona, who allows the fifth fewest points to the quarterback this week. Okay, so I think if you have him and that's all you have, you got to start him. You got to start him. Obviously, temper expectations, but to me, he's a sit if you're able to sit him this week. I also have the Ken Dog Walker goes up against the Jags. They rank fifth against the run. Seattle will have to get it done through the air if they're going to have any success against the Jags. We just watched, last night. The Chiefs really didn't have a ton of success run the ball here and there, but they basically tried to get it done mostly through the air, and I think that's what Seattle's going to have to do. Finally, I'm sitting Tua Tunga Viola against the Chargers, who rank fourth in the NFL versus the pass, which comes to about 172 yards per game. And obviously, no Tyreek Hill. I know Waddle got hurt last week, but I believe he did end up coming back in the game. But they really are going to have to rely on a chain in this one to have any shot at success, from my standpoint.
All right, let's get into the world famous "Dude, I'm Sorry" segment. Kamish, you can start us off with that if you're ready.
I am absolutely ready. All right, boys. So the New York Football Giants let me down against the Saints. Scattaboo, who I said you got to get him in your lineup, right? 59 yards. Dart. I love Dart. 202 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions. For that dude, I am sorry. However, I did tell you to pick up and start Rashad White, right? 41 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 catches for 30 yards off the waiver wire. So hopefully you listen to me and it helped you win a game this week. I know it helped me in 2 of my leagues, so good stuff. Doctor, how about you? What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it was rough for those who were looking to do the PPR cheat code and have Wan'Dale Robinson. I was starting him in one league in the flex spot, and he turned this opportunity in for 7 targets on 5 catches and for 30 yards against a Saints defense that is no bueno. So I've learned my lesson. It was fun for a week to see the dart magic, but I'm all out on Giants pass catchers, unless I'm taking a shot in the dark on Theo Johnson, the tight end, if I need it. But yeah, if you tailed me on the Wan'Dale pick, I'm sorry. On the flip side, I did tell you to sit Zay Flowers. It was a boat race. CJ Stroud did whatever he wanted to do. He wasn't rushed at all. So Cooper Rush is not the answer going forward for Zay. I don't think Lamar's going to play this week either. And then they have the bye coming up, and there's talk of Snoop Huntley starting to get for the Ravens this week. So again, temper your expectation on Flowers. I just don't think he's anywhere near the floor that he has when Lamar's in there. So I would just try to stay clear of Flowers again for a second straight week if you can, especially going up against a Rams team. I think they're going to just want to crush them and run the ball down their throats.
All right. I got to do mine. All right. Last week, I told you to bench Matthew Stafford on Thursday Night Football against the 49ers, and boy, did he prove me wrong. He threw for 389 yards and 3 touchdowns, and for that, dude, I'm sorry. But I did tell you to start Justin Fields, who threw for 283 yards and 2 touchdowns, and I told you to sit Joey Judy, who had 2 catches for 15 yards. All right, let's get into the DFS lineup of the week. But before that, you are listening to us live on Cruisin' 92.1 WVLT Vineland, and you're listening to us here on YouTube. All right, who wants to go first? Anyone?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind going first. I did talk about this earlier in the segment. For me, I love Drake May this week, 5,900. I know Matt likes him a lot this week too, going up against that Saints team. He's a smash for me. I love this revenge game for Rico Dowdle. I got him at 5,800. I think he's gonna. I don't know if he'll have as good as a game he did this past week, but he's definitely gonna try to put it in Dallas. I love Kyron Williams this week, 6,300. Again, we talked about how this Ravens defense, it's weak across the board. You can run on them, you can throw on them. I'm looking for Kyron to have himself another great back-to-back weeks. For me, I'm going Rome Odunze, 6,500. Coming off the bye, I'm hoping the Bears and the Commanders are going to have that shootout, which is why I'm going on the other side as well. Deebo Samuel, I'm getting two big wide receivers. Deebo for 6,400, and then going back to the Tedero McMillan, 6,000. This kid has been playing really well. I know Bryce is struggling right now, but McMillan, he's definitely playing really well. He's getting a lot of volume. He just hasn't found the end zone yet. I think he finds the end zone this week, so he's a smash for me. And then going back to that Dallas game, Jake Ferguson, he's the tight end one on the year right now, 5,300. For me, he's just the guy. I know you temper expectations with Pickens and everything, but Dak is on a hot streak right now. He's playing really good football, and he's got Ferguson involved. And until CD comes back to take targets away, he's just a must start for me right now, at tight end especially. And in the flex, I'm going with Rashid Shaheed, 4,600. I think Olavi's gonna get the brunt of Gonzalez for that defense. So I think Shaheed's gonna have plenty of opportunities to have that one big play where like he did this past week. He just blows the roof off for a touchdown. And then this is going to be an interesting game this week. I'm going with the Raiders defense for 3,200. Gino hasn't looked good, but the Titans haven't looked good either. I think if you want to play either of these defenses, just because Gino's been giving the ball away so much, but the Titans, they somehow squeaked out a win last week against the Cardinals, but they do not look good whatsoever. And I think this Raiders defensive line is going to get after Cameron Ward. How are we feeling, Matt? Well, what do you got this week?
Hold on, we actually got a question here from a listener here. Kyron Williams or Judkins from Carter.
Ooh.
That one's tough. I probably lean more Williams because they play the Ravens this week, and the Ravens are just kind of shot out. So I would go Williams. Judkins is a great start too. Don't get me wrong. They play the Steelers, but I think that's just a tough divisional rivalry. So
yeah,
they know each other pretty well, and I think. Don't get me wrong. I think Judkins could have a good game, like a decent game, but I think Williams is probably your better bet there. What are you guys thinking?
Yeah, I'm on the same side. If they got the rookie quarterback in there for the Browns, whether it's Sanders or Gabriel, I think the Steelers are coached enough that they know they have to stop the run, and they're going to make this kid beat him in the air. And I just don't think he can. I just don't think he's good enough. He's not an NFL caliber QB. So I would definitely lean Kyron, especially because, again, you're going up against that Ravens defense, which cannot stop anyone right now, and they are not going to have Lamar. Lamar's their superpower. He's their Superman. If he's not playing, all you have to really do is just make sure you bottle up Derrick Henry. The Rams are really good at playing the run, as we said earlier in the show. So for me, it could definitely be a Kyron game where they just keep running the ball to the point where maybe they have such a lead. Blake Corum gets more action. Who knows? But I'll definitely I'll side with Kyron.
I agree with you guys on that because of everything you laid out. But I just want to point out that the Steelers, 28th in total defensive yards. They give up 149 yards per game, fourth highest in the NFL, tied for the most with 4 rushing touchdowns allowed. So, and listen, and you watching Judkins, man, the kid is a beast. He is going to be a top tier running back most probably next year in our drafts. But I think you got to go Kyron this week because I think you're right, Jeff. The way the game's going to go, they're just going to grind it out and eat it up, man, with that clock with Kyron Williams. And how can you not start him? How can you not?
Right. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to not start him, but I think, like you were saying, I think it's obvious he's touchdown reliant. Like, if he doesn't score, then you're kind of beat there. We just got another question here from Woody the Badger. Welcome in, Woody. How are we feeling about Joe Flacco for Chase and T. Higgins? Where do you have them rest of the season? So we were just talking about this earlier up in the beginning about the news. So Flacco's now with the Bengals. I was saying that I think it's great for the team. I think it'll help. I think it'll help everyone. Chase, Higgins, Brown, heck, even the tight ends there. So I think that'll be good because Jake Browning was just not throwing the ball to the right team, unfortunately, and for multiple weeks. And I think that's what caused this to happen. I think it should have happened sooner, in my opinion, but this is how the NFL goes. Not for long, right? NFL. And
Right.
yeah, I think hopefully we see an instant change. Everyone and their mother keeps saying that Joe Flacco already beat the Packers and he's going to do it again. So I hope he does. Like, I think that would be such a great narrative. But yeah, I think it'll. I'm a T. Higgins owner myself, Woody. So I'm hoping for the best. I think I think Joe Flacco throws the ball a lot better. So I'm excited to see what he can do. What do you guys want to say?
I like their schedule. I'm looking at their schedule. It's Packers, which obviously Flacco beat them already. Steelers, Jets, Bears, Steelers again, Pats, Ravens, Bills. I mean, I think this is a lot of fantasy success for everyone who's been suffering, including myself. And I think Jeff said it earlier. Chase Brown could be the big beneficiary with the checkdowns. What do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, I mean, for me, these next two games are going to be tough. I do not expect the Bengals to beat the Packers. The Packers, they've looked really good at home and then kind of shaky on the road. But I don't know if Flacco gets it done a second time. They have a decent stretch of games, and then against New England, that's going to be a tough one too. But it's not terrible. They definitely have an easier schedule. As long as Flacco can stay upright, he will get the ball where it needs to go. It's honestly, this offensive line is just not good. And he's a statue. I mean, Flacco's 41 years old. He's not going to be able to move around in the pocket, like Joe Burrow or even Browning, who can kind of scramble a little bit. But if they can protect him, if they can keep him upright, he definitely has that savvy veteranness and the mind to get the ball open to where these guys, whether it's T. Higgins down the field or Jamar Chase just running across the middle of the field and letting him do all the work. I definitely think it's a step up, but again, temper your expectations. I wouldn't expect Jamar Chase to be a top 5 receiver this year. I wouldn't expect T. Higgins to be a top 15 receiver this year. I think if anything, Jamar Chase will probably be top 10. And T, if Flacco's consistent and can stay up on his feet, top 24 for T. But again, I think Chase Brown is the beneficiary for this because Flacco does like to check the ball down. So that's where I'm standing at right now.
All right. Thank you for your question, Woody. We'll get back into the DFS lineups of the week. I'll tell you guys who I got. All right. Like Jeff was saying, so DFS, this is for DraftKings. I'm at quarterback. I have Drake May at 5,900 against the Saints. Like I said earlier, I think he's going to have a great game. Not necessarily a great game, but I think he'll have a decent game against the Saints. That's a great matchup there. And I like the value, so I'm going with Drake May. Josh Jacobs, I think he's a must start this week. Coming off a bye, he's 7,300 at home versus the Bengals, who, like I said earlier, is one of the worst, if not the worst, rushing defense. So I'm going with Jacobs there. And I have Quinshawn Judkins, 5,900 at Pittsburgh. I still think he's gonna listen. I'm relying on that touchdown, like I said earlier. I think he can get it. He is a great player, and he's really exciting to watch. So I have him there at 5,900. Wide receivers, I have Devontae Adams at 6,700. They play the Ravens away. Again, the Ravens are just completely decimated on defense, and they're looking for draft picks this year. So I'm going with Adams there. And I also have Jacoby Myers at 5,800 at home against the Titans. I think that could be a much better game for Geno, finally. I think he kind of has to figure it out quick. So hopefully Myers has a good game as well. My third wide receiver is Michael Pittman Jr. at 5,400 at home against the Cardinals. Cardinals are a mess right now. They are just not a good team. Not a good team right now. That they were up how much? I don't even remember. It was 17 or
21-3.
21-3, Jeff. What are we doing?
Demercado.
What are we doing?
What a moron. He's got moron disease.
I was like it's like I blinked and the Titans won. I was like, what?
It's insane.
It's crazy. But start whoever you can on the Colts because I think that our Arizona defense just something's going on there, and I think Jonathan Gannon's going to be on the hot seat, if he isn't already, because yikes.
That whole organization needs to be on the hot seat, Matt.
He just got fined. Gannon just got fined $100,000 for the altercation on the sidelines.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I get that. I think everyone knows this. You don't drop the ball before the plane. You just don't do that, and it's
people still do it.
They still do it, and it's like you're more worried about celebrating than scoring a touchdown, and it's just so frustrating to see. And it happened the week before, didn't it? Someone else did that.
Yeah.
Adonai Mitchell. Adonai Mitchell did it.
Yeah.
Oh, just like man. Oh, I can't with that. I'll keep going. My tight end is Tucker Kraft at 4,700. Again, coming off a bye against those Bengals. Give me some Kraft mac and cheese for my tight end there. And then my flex, I have Rico Dowdle, like Jeff was saying. I got the revenge game here. I hope it's just Dowdle. I mean, as much as if Chuba Hubbard comes back, I might just switch, but I hope it's Dowdle, and I hope he's right because he's talking snack, and the Cowboys talk back, and I love this, and I want Dowdle to show him up. And then I have the Browns defense at 2,500 against the Steelers away. Like I said earlier, when I was answering the question, I think one of the, if not one of the toughest rivalries is like Brown Steelers, like that. I always think how low scoring it is, and how it's very in the trenches. And every year, I feel like the Browns somehow they pull off an upset, and everyone's shocked. And I'm like, no, this is this division all year. Like it's it's not surprising that the underdog wins sometimes. So I got the Browns there. Kamish, who do you have in your
Yeah, man, that Browns defense is ridiculous, man. They're excellent D. I'm going with Jalen Hurts as my quarterback. Goes up against the New York Football Giants, 6,700. It's an excellent play because he's going to bounce back with a vengeance this week. I'm also going with Barkley, revenge game against the New York Football Giants at 7,600. He's going to put up big numbers because he really hasn't done it all year. This is the game. You make sure you get him in your lineup. I'm sticking with both of you. Rico Dowdle, the revenge game against the Dallas Cowboys, to give up 134 yards per game on the ground. Dowdle wants to eat. They're going to feed him. So at 5,800, that's a dealio. Wide receiver, I'm sticking with the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown, 5,700. He got squared up with Hurts this week. You're going to see some bombers to him this week for sure. Devonta Adams is going to get it done against the Ravens at 6,700. Man, I'll tell you what, Puka Nacua is playing out of his mind. Obviously, wide receiver one, ridiculous, but it's got to open up something for Devonta, and I think this is the week we can see it. So I'm excited to see that. I'm with you, Jeff, on a doomsday against the Washington Commanders. 6,500 is a great play there. He's been getting it done every week. He is Caleb's number one. And make sure he should be in your DFS pretty much every week. The guy's just getting it done. Here's my tight end, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later in the show. Mason Taylor, the New York Jets, 3,300. Okay, talk about him a little bit later, but he's an excellent play at the tight end position. Here's a surprise flex for you. Ryan Flournoy at 3,600. Guess what? He's the number 2 wide receiver in Dallas. Okay, 3,600. Monster play against Carolina because their defense is terrible. And finally, I'm going with the Packers coming off the bye against the Bengals. It's going to take a little bit for Flacco to get up to speed with the offense. And Packers off the bye. I mean, come on, 3,700. That's a steal.
Joe Flacco is going to shock the world. I'm telling you. I can't wait to see it. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Mason Taylor there. He's solid. Like he's definitely solid for sure, and so is Flournoy. So hopefully they get some production, like you're saying. All right, let's go into our sleepers / long shots. I'll start that off if I can find it. All right, this week I got Diami Brown. Now that Brent Strange is gone, I think it's obvious that there's going to be some targets somewhere else, and I think that's going to go to Brown's way. So I got Diami Brown as my. I'm going to call him a long shot. I'm going to call him a long shot this week, not a sleeper, a long shot. What do you guys got, Jeff? What do you have?
Yeah, for my for my sleeper, for me, listen, if this guy can just get more volume, I think Bill Krosky-Merritt, he's gonna win leagues this year. He had that incredible game last week against the Chargers. 2 touchdowns. He had 13 carries, over 100 yards. He just needs more volume. I really think they can lean on this guy for the rest of the season. I watched him in college. I knew he was great, and I had him in the back of my mind. He had to sit this last year of college out, and a lot of people did they were just surprised. And I watched this dude in college, and I was always high on him when he was coming into the NFL. When he got to this team, I didn't think Brian Robinson would be off the team, so I was like, he's just a nice stash. But this guy, I'm telling you, he was the running back 5 last week. He's a hard worker. I love this kid's work ethic. If they give him a little bit more volume and Chris Rodriguez starts to just not see the field, McNichols, he's gonna mix in. He's gonna catch passes. That is what it is. But if he can continue to keep Chris Rodriguez off the field and get just a little bit more volume, we don't need some crazy amount. But I really think this guy's going to be a home run for the rest of the season. For me, I definitely think if he continues to get the volume he's getting with a little bit more, he's a top 15 running back rest of the season. I mean, this offense looks good. Debo's humming. Terry McLaurin's not even playing right now. You're going to have Debo. If Debo's active, Terry gets back from his injury, they're going to have to deal with all these pass catchers. Jacory's going to just have his way running the ball. I just think he's a really fun pick for me. So yeah, that's for me, especially I guess this week against the Bears. It's a no-brainer for me. He's a must start if I've got him in my teams.
He's definitely the best running back on their team. I mean,
for sure.
And he is playing. He looks excellent. So here we go. Long shot. I just mentioned him in my DFS lineup. Ryan Flournoy. He put up 6 for 114 against the Jets last week. This week he goes up against the Panthers, who rank 29th against the pass. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome. Ryan Flournoy. Get him in your lineup. Outstanding play this week.
Wow. Beautiful. I just wanted to throw this at you, Jeff. I just looked it up. Bill Merritt, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, was RB2 in our main league this past week. So that I think it
listen, and I know for a fact I am not getting him from your brother in our league.
No.
I mean, he's as sharp as they come. I know I'm not getting him. But if you're in other leagues like we are, if you're in dynasty leagues, I would try to acquire him. Obviously, if someone wants to give you a first round pick for next year, sure. You get the return on your investment. He wasn't even drafted in so many leagues.
Yeah, he went undrafted. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And he was wasn't he? He got drafted in the NFL draft. Didn't he go 7th or something?
Yeah, he was a very late pick. I mean, he wasn't on anyone's radar.
I had him high on my board, and I completely ignored it because of, like you said, because once that Brian Robinson trade happened, I was like, oh no.
Yeah. It's wild, man. I mean, listen, that's the NFL.
I wasn't expecting that to happen. I mean, you had Eckler, who obviously is now out for the year. Then they trade Brian Robinson Jr. What else? You really thought Jeremy McNichols was going to – Chris Rodriguez was going to – no. It was going to be him, and it was always going to be him. And the hype around him, obviously, and he's an excellent player. And I had him really high. I had him – but he wasn't even invited to the combine. Because he wasn't even that, and I was like, you know what, whatever, not a big deal. And I remember seeing that he got drafted in the 7th round, but I was like, you just never know. It's very hard to. A lot of things had to happen for this to happen, and it did.
I mean, listen, it did. And at the end of the day, crazy. We got to adjust. And if they're going to ride him, and if he's going to be the main guy in that backfield, the Chargers have injuries up and down. The offensive line, that they just lost Marion Hampton to IR, but they were a good team. They're still a good team. They're well coached, and they were up 10-0 on the Commanders, and then the Commanders came back and just beat the life out of them. They did whatever they wanted to that Chargers team. They were great last year in the postseason. I definitely think with Ja'Cory, running the ball, they got Debo, who's fine on all cylinders right now. They're still waiting for Terry to get back and ramped up. I like this offense, and I think this is going to be a really nice shootout against this Bears team this week.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with that Chargers defense. They started off pretty strong, and now it's just like all over the place. It's just weird.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
All right, let's go into the main event, the waiver wire pickups. This is what everyone's been waiting for. I'll start it off. I have no problem with doing that because I normally go with the obvious every week. All right, this week I got the obvious. Hassan Haskins. Now that Amari Hampton's out, he's the next guy up. So you're gonna want to go and try to get him if you need help at running back. And another back I have is Michael Carter. He had a decent game last week. I actually had to pick him up and start him, and I won because
Yes,
I was
sir.
down Josh Jacobs and I couldn't. I was down everybody. Bijan, Drake London, and I somehow won. He had a decent game. He had 18 attempts. That's excellent. 51 yards and a touchdown. He also caught 5 for 5 for 22. So Michael Carter, don't he doesn't drop the ball before the pylon. So you would want to get him. Also, I'm a big proponent about streaming defenses. I picked two this week. I got the Patriots against that Saints offense. I think that's a good matchup there. They could be out there, and I have the Colts who play the Cardinals. So, like I said earlier, Cardinals are they're they're they should be in London or whatever because
They
they don't
should
need to
be in
play
London.
football in the National Football League. This is terrible. So I got those teams. Jeff, what do you got for your pickups?
Yeah, for me, I'm looking right now. Listen, you still got to wait for but Christian Watson and Jalen Coker. They are both wide receivers that right now that are coming off the IR designated list. I think Watson's going to still need more time to ramp up. But this Packers team, like they need more explosive plays. I mean, Matthew Golden hasn't really hit yet. He hasn't really had a great target share. Jaden Reed's still out. So I think if Watson comes back and he comes back and still has pep in his step, coming off this ACL injury, he could be a guy that especially with these bye weeks, bye week McGinnon's coming up soon. If you have Christian Watson, he's a big play guy. He's one of these boomer busts like Jameson Winston or Rashid Shaheed, where one play he can make your week. And Jalen Coker, he's coming back too. When he was active and not injured, he was a big part of the reason Bryce Young was having that resurgence in the second half last year. Um, there's no, there's only Tedero McMillan. I mean, I know Xavier Leggett had a great game this past week, but I think Coker's legit. There was a lot of talk that he was outplaying Xavier Leggett. He was outplaying Xavier Leggett last year, and I think this guy's a gamer. I've been stashing him on a few leagues on my IR spot, just waiting because you never know. I mean, especially if the defense has to worry about Tedero McMillan. I think Coker's going to be a really good beneficiary and just reap the benefits and hopefully help Bryce Young out. But those are the two guys I'm looking at to kind of stash away and hope for the best. And Henry, what are we looking at for this week, sir?
Well, like I said earlier, I was going to talk about it. It's Mason Taylor, the New York Jets tight end. He's definitely the number 2 target on that team. So, matter of fact, he leads the league with 19 targets, which is crazy. Okay, he's currently tight end 8 in the NFL. In the last 2 weeks, he's put up over 14 fantasy points. So if Mason Taylor's out there, man, go grab him right now. Monster beast, right? He should be in your lineup every week. I also like Christian Kirk. Looks to be the number 2 option behind Nico Collins. Stroud was definitely looking for him this past week. So I know Kirk's out is available in a lot of different formats. So if you need help at the wide receiver position, I know there's only 2 teams on a bye this week, but as you guys said, bye McGinnon is coming. So you make sure you prepare for that. Look ahead. Finally, I have Kendre Miller. He looks like a better option as the early down back. And there's rumors that Kamara may get traded. So be ready. I mean, this past week he led the team with rushing opportunities. I mean, it was only 10 for 41. But guess what? If Kamara gets traded, Miller's the guy, right? So, always thinking ahead. If you have an extra spot on your bench, I would tend to pick him up now, stash him away.
All right. Let's do our buy low and sell high this week. I'll start that off. All right. This week, I think the guy to go get is J.K. Dobbins. I think he's shown that he's kind of the guy there. I'm really not afraid of RJ Harvey. I think he's just okay. Not even, I don't know. Maybe the coach doesn't like him. I don't know what it is. I don't think he's unbelievable. I think J.K. Dobbins is the guy there, so I'm ready to go and get him. So that's my buy low. My sell high is Rashid Shaheed. He finally had his boom game, right? I mean, he's been a boom bust guy so far this year, and he finally boomed. And I think now's the time to go and sell him for someone that's probably more fantasy viable and that will actually give you a better average each week than Shaheed. Kamish, who do you have to buy low, sell high?
My buy low candidate is going to be Bucky Irving. We all know he's hurt. Okay, so now's the time to go, to go get him. Go after him right now. His playoff schedule, okay? Saints, Atlanta, Carolina, Miami. That's weeks 14 through 17. So he's got a great playoff schedule. The guy that has him is suffering right now because you picked him up to be a starter and he's hurt, right?
We're not suffering. We're okay.
Right, you have him, right? Okay. My sell high candidate, okay, is going to be Rico Dowdle. He just put up 206 yards, okay? So his value is an all-time high. However, we all know Chuba Hubbard's hurt. And listen, we all know Dowdle's got the revenge game against Dallas this week. Excellent. Chuba is not on IR, which means he's not going to miss 4 games, right? He comes back, Dowdle's not going to be Dowdle anymore. So while his value is an all-time high, and he's got a juicy matchup this week, now's the time to trade him. Okay, go after an ETN, something like that. You can get for Dowdle right now. Something along those lines that could help you propel your team to a fantasy championship.
I definitely don't think. Well, depending on which ETN you want to go after, but I have ETN in one league, and he is like a gold mine for me because I know so. I mean, listen, it was between Tank Bigsby, Facial 2, and an ETN, and I just got lucky and I picked the right guy. But he's gonna be tough to pry from my cold dead hands. But for me, a buy low for me right now. Let's see here. I've got Tedero McMillan. Again, I talked about him before. He's he hasn't scored a touchdown yet. I understand that, but they're getting Coker back soon. I think that's going to help the offense out as a whole. Once Chuba Hubbard gets back too, the offenses should be that much healthier and have all their weapons back. This past week, it was a good day. He had 6 receptions, 73 yards. But again, he didn't score against that Miami defense that has pretty much been Swiss cheese this entire year. But I still think he's a guy you want to buy low on. Myself personally, if I had AJ Brown, just on name value alone, and just because he's in a better offense, but I would go 1 for 1. I would trade McMillan for AJ Brown straight up, or vice versa. I would trade AJ Brown for McMillan straight up. I think he's going to have the better games ahead. Their schedule is not that bad for the rest of this year. And I think there's a big production, and if you can get him ahead of this Dallas game this week, I think you're going to be in for a nice surprise. And then sell high, I can't believe I'm saying it, but Christian McCaffrey. At this point, you're just going to get that the pre-injury value for McCaffrey as he's restored faith in humanity, all that jazz. But I just don't buy it. He is getting such a heavy workload right now. I know Kittle, Kittle's returning is still up in the air. There was talk of him being back for week 6, but it looks like, that's not the case. everyone is injured on this team, and McCaffrey's being force-fed the ball 25 plus, looks his way, whether it's Purdy or Mac Jones giving him the ball. I just think you can get a king's ransom for him. You give him to someone. If you've got McCaffrey and you're in a position right now where, you're not 4-1 or 5-0, you can go after that guy who's 4-1, 5-0. See what players he has and see if he's willing to take McCaffrey to just make his super team that much better. I think especially if you put him on the trade block, try to get some 2-for-1 deals. Try to maybe tear down a little bit of running back and get a nice wide receiver, or go get a Jake Ferguson, tight end 1, something like that. I definitely think you can work out a deal to try to get McCaffrey off your team, and especially last year you had Isaac Orendo and Jordan Mason, so you were able to help your team stay afloat when you lost McCaffrey. But Brian Robinson, it's Brian Robinson. He doesn't catch the ball really. He's kind of this big lumbering back, and right now, San Fran is not good at running the ball. McCaffrey hasn't scored a single rushing touchdown so far this year. He scored all his points just through the incredible volume, and I just don't know if his body's going to hold up for the end of the year. So I would just try to get out on McCaffrey while you can.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us here for week 5, and now we're on to week 6. So thank you all so much for listening, and remember, if you're not playing fantasy football, you're probably trying to figure out what's real and what's AI. Have a good one, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on Twitter at KAF Football.